In the wake of the terrorist attacks of September 11, the United States launched an international war on terrorism, defined mainly by military interventions to reshape the Middle East in accordance with the US vision. However, it has become clear that the American strategy has destabilized the Middle East while doing little to keep terrorist organizations at bay. In Syria, the US intervened militarily in 2014 on the pretext of fighting radical groups such as ISIS, a group that itself was created in the wake of the US intervention in Iraq in 2003. But this sugar-coated excuse has quickly divulged the real intentions of the US, which entered parts of Syria without the consent of the Syrian government and started supporting rebel groups here and there against the Syrian state, in a blatant violation of Syria's sovereignty and a clear intervention in the course of the Syrian crisis. The US intervention continued on the same pretext, and in every new place the US forces entered, they brought fighters they support to fill in the gap left by ISIS, instead of just handing such areas to the Syrian government. Such policies have been seen by experts as the main reason to prolong the Syrian war and presents the various rebel groups in Syria. Experts see the real intention of the US is to weaken Syria and force the hands of the Syrian government into succumbing to the American policy in the region. But when the US couldn't do that entirely by the military intervention and supporting opposition rebels, it took to another approach to further exert pressure on Syria by tightening economic sanctions, which further deteriorated the livelihood of the Syrians, who are now suffering from the lack of fuel, gas, and basic necessities amid skyrocketing prices as a result of the deterioration in the value of the Syrian currency.
استمرار سرقة النفط السوري وكذلك الموارد الطبيعية السورية، وهذا من شأنه أيضا أن يزيد من الوضع المأساوي للمواطن السوري، بالتالي الذي يفكر بخيارات أخرى للحصول على موارد الحياة اليومية بما في ذلك الخنوع لبعض المطالب الخارجية، وبالتالي أن يتحول المواطن السوري تحت الظروف المعيشية الصعبة إلى عنصر ضمن التنظيمات الإرهابية.
To sum up the outcome of the so-called anti-terror coalition led by the US in Syria, we can say that the US intervention prolonged the Syrian war, did not entirely eliminate ultra-radical groups, emboldened some groups by supporting them directly and allowing them to control key oil and gas fields in eastern Syria, creating a tough economic landscape in the country by imposing more sanctions. And probably the most recent negative impact is how the economic situation is preventing Syrians from returning to the country and pushing people inside Syria to think again about ways to leave the country and reach Europe, which will add to the already existing refugee crisis there. The inescapable conclusion is that the staggering costs of the war on terror and its impact on the situation in the Middle East have far outweighed the benefits, if any.